How's it, nobody? It is Ethan or Uncoded, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Build Twitter. In this episode, we are going to go ahead and finally finish up all of the coding for our Form 1 module. That's going to include adding some headers, adding some text, and then also adding in the little 0 out of 50 to 50 out of 50 icons inside of the name. But we actually want to worry about how many characters they're putting in. So let's go ahead and hop into VS Code and let's get right into this. Even though we have all the inputs set up and good to go, we still need to add a few more things to make this match the Twitter page. So let's go ahead and hop into the register modal 1.tsx and actually fix all of this up and then also see where else we go. So coming back in here, we need to go ahead and do some more. So mainly we need to add in some content inside of the actual HTML or the JSX. First thing, we don't need this anymore. So let's go ahead and get rid of that dead weight, and I think everything else is fine. So now let's go ahead and start changing some things up. So the first thing, we have our content, we have a container, and then we also need an h1 inside of our content. So let's go ahead and have an h1. This is just be reg last name of reg-step-1-header. And this is just going to say create your account. We'll go ahead and style this in a little bit. So now that will pop up with that. And then these are fine. The first name, last name is fine. However, below the email, we need a disclaimer. So let's go ahead and add that disclaimer. So let's go ahead and say div class name. And this is going to be reg-step-1 DOB disclaimer, because it is going to be a disclaimer about the date of birth. And let's go ahead and pop in that. So the first one, we're going to have a key tag with a class name equal to reg-step-1 DOB-header. And of course, I could have done this something else, but it's fine. It's just going to say date of birth, like so. And then underneath, we're going to have a span. And this is going to be the class name of reg-step-1. This is going to be -dob text, like so. And inside the text, it's going to say this will not be shown publicly. And then confirm your own age, even if this account is for a business, pet, or something else. Okay, and then that should be it for now. So now we need to go ahead and set up all these styles. We'll also need to figure out how to set up the button style, but I think that might come in a little bit later. So now if we take a look at it though, we can see that we just have the date of birth stuff, we have the create your account, and this all needs to be styled up nicely. So we should already have a CSS, register form1.css, and we're just going to add in a couple of things. So we already have the content container and the content. So next we're just going to have a .reg-step-1-header with some information about this. So the font size is going to be 31 as per Twitter. I ripped this one straight off their website. And font weight, this one is a guesstimate, about 600, looked good. Next we need the reg-step-1 DOB disclaimer. All right, inside of the disclaimer, we're going to have width of 100%. We are going to have height to fit content. And then we are going to have margin bottom of 15. Again, these were most of these were eyeballed to look good based off of what I saw on Twitter. Next, we have our reg-step-1. And this is going to be DOB header. And this is going to have a font size of 15px. This is going to have a font weight of about 700 pixels, or just 700, and then margin bottom of about 5 pixels. And it's hard to actually gauge what Twitter uses or like all the settings because they just use spans for literally everything. So if I wanted to, I could have done that as well, but it's fine. Reg step 1 -dob match text. I figured it'd probably be a good idea not to use spans for everything. So font size 1, font size 14px. The color, I feel like this should probably be stored somewhere, but it's going to be 5.3, 6.4, and then 7.1. I'm pretty sure it's like a light gray. And then finally, font weight is going to be 400. And this should already be imported, so it shouldn't be an issue. So we take a look. Now it looks a little bit nicer. Maybe the spacing is a little bit too much there, but I think it'll be fine. Now we need to go ahead and change up the style next button. That way it actually fits like we want. So let's go ahead and go into wherever we have it. I think the register next button. And then here we want the width to be 75% instead. And save. And I believe that's everything for the button. So now it should line up pretty nicely there. If we refresh, it looks good. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and fix up the first and last name, because these should actually display how much characters we have left to fill out. So this one's going to take a little bit more work. So let's go ahead and go back into here, close out a couple of things here, and we're going to go into our validated input and go into our validated text input. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is go up to our props, and we need to add in something else to our validated input props called attributes. So this one is a little bit strange. We're going to be an optional thing called a record. So this is going to kind of be able to act as a object. So it's going to take in a string as a name, and it can be a string, a number, or a Boolean. So essentially what this is going to allow us to do is pass in objects as a prop. Let's go ahead and add in the attributes here, like that. Okay, and now we're going to do a little bit of refactoring. So coming on down to our actual input, what we're going to do inside of the input itself, we're going to go ahead and say ... attributes, and this is going to break this down and then apply any other attributes into the validated input. So now we need to go ahead and go into the register name input. So that's going to be in here, and name input, go into a register name input, and we need to go ahead and actually pass in that information for the max length. So if we go ahead and scroll down, and inside of our validated text input, this is pretty long, so I'm going to go ahead and do one of these just to make it look a little bit tidier. Well, some people might think it looks tidier, others might not. I just want to clear up some space. I'll do the same thing here, as we have two of these validated text inputs. All right, so now at the bottom here, or at the top, it doesn't really matter where I put it. I'm going to add in attributes. And this is going to equal an object with a max length. Max length equal to 50. We need to do that also inside of here. So now anytime we have a new attribute, such as max length attributes, it will be actually put on there as an attribute inside of that input. So now that input itself is going to only allow us to take in 50 characters. We can also check in to make sure that it shows up. So we still need to do one last thing, I believe, inside of our validated text input, and we actually need to go ahead and display that slash essentially. So what we're going to do is below the actual input, we're going to say if attributes, and the attribute has a max length. So attributes dot max length. Again, it might not actually show up. And then we had to also check for border active. So this only shows up whenever we click, and it's not valid. Or it's not valid. So if it's not valid, it'll show up. or if the border is active, it'll show up, or both, obviously. So we're going to have a question mark, and we're going to go ahead and say either it'll be a span, the class name, equal to validated dash input dash remainder. And then this is going to be the value dot length. Whoops. So whatever our value is, how long, get the length of that. And then this will be over our attributes dot max length. So remember, we already checked to make sure max length existed. So that is good. Shouldn't be an issue. So, and then we have to have the or, otherwise we'll just show nothing. So here we're making sure the attribute exists because remember, it is optional. Here we're making sure max length is included on that because remember, the name could be anything inside this record. And then if both of those are true and we're either active, we've clicked on it, or it's not valid, we're going to show how many we have left. So this should technically work right now. So if I click on it, you see 0 out of 50. We're typing, we'll just have a whole bunch of stuff. It says 50 out of 50, we can't type anymore. Like this, delete it all the way. Like this, it still shows up. So that's how we need it. So now we actually need to make this go up in the top right corner instead of in the top left. So let's go ahead and fix that up. So now we're going to go into the validated input.css, and below here we'll go ahead and say dot validated dash input dash remainder, and we are going to have an absolute position, and this is going to say top 5 pixels, right 10 pixels, and then we're going to have a font size of 13 pixels. We're going to have a font weight of 500. It's going to be a little bit thicker, and color is again going to be kind of like a darker or a lighter gray. So 65, 77, 86. So a lighter gray, and save. This should already be imported. So now if we refresh, you can see it's in the top right. We can click, we can write, everything is good. So now this should be complete. We can go ahead and put in a email. So I'll just put in my name at mail.com, put in the month, day, year, next, and we're now at register step 2. And now we should be able to go ahead and start working on these other steps for real this time. Unfortunately, that's going to be it for today. If you guys enjoyed, please stick around for the next episode by hitting that subscribe button. You'll know exactly when it comes out, especially with that bell icon. If you did enjoy the content today, please sure to leave a thumbs up. If you did enjoy it, leave a thumbs down. Either way, it helps out with the algorithm all the same. And finally, if you have any suggestions or feedback for me, make sure you leave a comment down below. With that being said, I appreciate you all for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode. Peace out, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.